The people. Boo 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 boo. Oh, beautiful. So about a year ago, I decided to completely switch from my regular phone to this Nokia 5310 Express Music, as it's called. I had this exact phone model when I was a little boy in school. Probably one of the most popular phone models at the time. A lot of my friends had the same one. So my first instinct was to download all of the games that I had as a child and check them out once again. Over the last year I've been playing them, gathering some thoughts and opinions. Let's start with the ones that came with the phone, pre-downloaded. I already had them when I bought the phone, okay? Probably one of the most iconic games of the time, City Blocks. As the name suggests, you build a city out of blocks. The game is extremely simple. It's just played with one key. The block is dangling on its own above a building site, and with a click of a button, you drop it. And you need to just time it adequately to drop exactly on the previous block so that the tower is perfectly straight. The straighter it is, the more points you get. If it's not straight at all, it can fall over. There's a quick mode if you want to just kill some time really quick and build one tower without thinking too much about it. And then you can also build a whole city. You're given a city grid, which you need to fill with buildings. There are 4 types of buildings: blue, red, green, and yellow. Progressively taller, progressively giving more points. And right off the bat, I want to say, the game looks awesome. The visual style is timeless. It holds up completely. It's still charming. I really like the way it looks. And it's just fun enough, even though it's just clicking one button. It's a great concept. What gives it a bit of spice is the fact that you can't place any building anywhere. There are certain adjacency rules. To build a red tower, you need a couple blue towers surrounding it, and then to build the green tower, you need the red towers around it. You need to build the yellow tower, you need the green tower. So it's like you need to kind of plan ahead, but nobody does that. So you start just ad hoc building randomly, then you have to rethink, and then you get into this little optimization, space optimization problem, where you have to figure out how to make it all fit together so you can maximize your points over the whole city. And that's, I think, the extra hook for the hardcore gamers there. This game was really successful and popular for a good reason. Looks great, it plays great still, it completely holds up in my opinion. To me, the best part of the whole thing. Like, I don't even care about the gameplay, the visuals, whatever it is. I just sometimes turn it on just to listen to the soundtrack. I know it's ridiculous, but it's amazing. It's really funky. It's really funny. It just makes me happy. Moving on to the next pre-installed game that came with the phone, Snake 3. Snake 3 is, as you might imagine, just a Snake remake. The music is okay, but they don't even have a good menu. Check this out. The menu is just the built-in phone menu. I remember a lot of people playing it back in the day, but to me, it seems like the polar opposite of City Blocks in terms of quality. It's still a simple idea, but made in a very unintuitive, clunky way. The basic gameplay of Snake, in case you don't know, is you have a confined area where you can snake around, and then you have to eat apples, and every apple makes you longer. And if you crash into the wall or into yourself, your tail, you die. So you have to basically eat as many apples as possible to get as many points as possible without dying. For some reason, they decided to make this particular game in 3D, which this phone handles very poorly. It runs at low FPS all the time. It looks extremely ugly as well to me. And to make the matters worse, I think they probably did it for optimization purposes, but there's this green, disgusting looking border around the whole screen. I mean, this screen is tiny. Look at how small it is in my hand. It's a tiny screen, and they make it a lot smaller with this stupid border. Probably for optimization purposes, because the game runs like shit anyway, and it probably ran even worse. I don't know why. It's just a 3D snake slithering on the screen, but for some reason it sucks. It performs really poorly. The basic gameplay of Snake, there's no changes to it whatsoever in this game, and the only changes are for the worse. It looks ugly and it performs badly. It's really slow too, like just the snake moving around is extremely fucking slow. I hate this game. I really don't like this game. I'll give it maybe a 2 out of 10. 2 out of 10 tops. I can't give it anymore. Next one, arguably not even a game. It's more of an application. Music Guess. Basically, it takes all of the sound files from your phone. Every single sound file. Doesn't matter if it's voice recordings, ringtones, message sounds, or any music that you downloaded. Puts it in a list and then randomly gives you 5 options to choose from. Plays a a part of the song and you have to guess the sound. You have to guess the song. There are a few problems. First of all, if you have not downloaded any music, you're just basically guessing the names of default ringtones on the phone, which is ridiculous to me. And then the second problem is it gives you a very short time before it starts disappearing some of the options. So by the time you've heard the song and had actually enough time to register what it is, 2 out of 5 options often are already gone. So it's like it really doesn't believe in your intelligence and sound recognition capabilities. I think makes it kind of a bad game, but I have a hard time even thinking of it as a game. It's more of just a neat extra function. So yeah, it's whatever. Let's just move on. This next one, I was born in a different country than the one I reside in right now. Maybe because of that, I think the default list of games on this phone is a bit different because I don't remember having Worms Forts ever on my phone when I was a kid, and I really liked Worms 4 Mayhem on my PC, so I was a big fan of Worms in general. So if I had Worms on my phone, I would remember for sure. This was basically my first time encountering this game, and it fucking sucks. It's nothing like actual Worms games on your Game Boy or your PC. You build forts, and then your worms can shoot only while being on top of these forts. The landscape of the map is extremely basic. It's really clunky, really boring, and really ugly compared to what you expect from a Worms game. It took me so long to even figure out how the fuck do you play this game. I mean, I'm kind of glad I wasn't exposed to this piece of shit game because it really sucks, and it would have probably tainted my love for the Worms, the Worms franchise irreparably. But let's move on to the games that I've downloaded. Back in the day when I had this phone, I was too small for my parents to allow me open access to the internet, so I had no idea, you know, how to download files or anything like that. So the only way to get games was to get them from some friend that had some other friend that had an older brother who was internet savvy and could download those games on your phone, and you would just swap SD cards. Yes, you can open the phone and there's an SD card, you can just kind of swap them and then copy the file. Some of them you could send via Bluetooth, but not a lot of them. Only a few actually worked after having been transferred through Bluetooth, but the SD swap card method was faultless. The first game I downloaded was Sola Rola. Now this game is actually developed by Eidos Mobile, which is studio name I recognize, and that reflects in the quality of the game. It feels like people were paid to make this. It works all of the time. There are no crashes, no weird glitches. It's just a good ass game. You basically play as this red blob, and you have to solve puzzles, environmental puzzles. You jump around, you have to avoid danger, like these red lava balls, these spiky balls and stuff like that. There are different missions, different tasks you need to perform. Sometimes you need to bring stone into a portal. Sometimes you just need to reach a portal. Sometimes you need to save a guy, another blob of a different color. Some of these puzzles are actually quite difficult, and it took me a few attempts to actually beat some of these levels. I would say it's pretty fun. The game looks nice. First of all, that's always a big factor for me. If it looks like shit, I have a hard time playing it. If it doesn't have a charm or some kind of style that it adheres to. It comes with an extremely important function wherein it lets you decide whether you want to launch the game with sound or without sound before you actually launch the game. In that way, you can be in class playing the game without accidentally turning on the loud main menu music. Some of the games, a lot of the games did not provide this function. You had to launch the game in advance before class started and turn off the sound and then go into class fucking committed to playing the game instead of studying, which is a bit hardcore. This game lets you just go with the flow, get bored naturally in the middle of Math 101 and then pull out this shit and play the game. One aspect, pretty important aspect of this game that was completely lost on me when I was a baby boy is the dialogue, because every mission starts with mission briefing, and there's also some banter between the two main characters, the red blob and the blue blob, which contains some simple jokes, but charming nonetheless. The reason I missed all of that as a kid, there are only 5 languages available for this game: English, French, German, Spanish, and Italian, none of which are my native language, so I simply could not comprehend any of the story. Luckily, it's really fucking basic. It's kind of funny to see that they even bothered putting a story in the game. Somebody wrote these dialogues and, you know, committed some actual time to developing this plot. It's kind of funny to me, and I appreciate it. Definitely, the jokes and the presentation is targeted towards smaller kids, more innocent souls. Overall, I like this game. I'm glad I came back to it. Which you cannot say for the next game here on my list, Line Rider. I personally remember spending long hours, days, weeks, months playing this game. in my mind, this is kind of a precursor to Garry's Mode and those kind of build your own level sandbox kind of games. Basically, the gameplay is you get a guy on a sledge and he's able to ride on these lines that are on the screen. And you get levels where some of the lines are already drawn and sometimes there are gaps in between them and you have to fill in these gaps with an appropriate type of line. I don't remember anyone playing the actual campaign. The campaign was secondary completely to the sandbox mode where you could just build any level you want. Build a giant penis, obviously. The first thing you do is build a big penis, maybe several penises the guy jumps over. But then you move on to building these elaborate levels, trying to get the highest speed possible, get your guy to fall from ridiculous heights just to see how hard he can crash. This game really captured me and my friends' minds. However, upon coming back to it, I found that it's absolutely fucking unplayable. To get around, you have to use these buttons, the 4 buttons, left, right, up, and down, to get around the screen, to choose and decide where to place a certain line. And then you have a selection of types of lines at the top. The pointer, which you move with these buttons, moves extremely slowly. And the way it places the lines is extremely finicky. Sometimes you get this little circle at the end of one line when you want to kind of attach the other line to it, so it continues smoothly. But like 60 to 70% of the time, it sticks incorrectly and the guy clips through the joint because it's like 1 pixel too high. So in the game's mind, it's a hole and he just falls right through. This shit is so finicky to fix later on because of how slow the cursor moves. It's just, I cannot fathom. How did we fucking play this? Why did we do this? I have no patience to play this game right now. There's nothing in the world that could make me build a finish. And even I launched an actual campaign level. The first fucking level, the easiest one, it's just going down the hill and up a hill. You have to add like 2 or 3 lines. When I finished that, I said, fuck it. I'm never gonna play this game again. It was so tedious, took so long, and was so annoying. I really don't understand how we could play it for so long. Maybe just because we're so incredibly bored in school. But yeah, that's what we did. We killed our time with this unwieldy beast of a game, Line Rider. Does not hold up at all. Gish, you're a blob. And it's like a platformer. This one is edgy. This one is for edgy kids, maybe a bit older kids. You're not just a blob, you're like a nasty blob. You're black, slimy, disgusting blob. All of the jokes are a lot more edgy. Once again, this is something that really went over my head as a kid because the game is in English. The key difference from SolaRola is that the movement mechanics are somewhat expanded. Aside from just moving around and jumping, you can also change your state of sliminess. You can become slimy and you can become sticky. The green slimy state lets you get through tight spots, and the sticky state lets you stick to walls and climb the ceiling in any level, and there will be secrets to find in the corners. For some reason, I love this mechanic to be sticky and get on top of the walls, on top of the ceiling. That was really exciting to my child brain. I don't know why. It's still exciting. It's awesome. There are a few problems. The game goes for a kind of a repulsive aesthetic, which has its own charm, but overall I would say it's a bit uglier than the other games we covered. The biggest flaw of the game, I think, is the bugs. I've reached a level which was almost unbeatable because at a certain point, when you jumped on a certain moving platform, you would just fall through the textures and the whole level would disappear and there was no way to progress. Also, the FPS sometimes gets lower if there's a lot of characters on the screen. But all of these drawbacks pale in comparison with one key feature, which I haven't mentioned yet. The pivotal feature, that thing that really sold it to every child in my school at least. You could play this game multiplayer. There is a deathmatch mode where the other player plays as a white blob, Gish's wife. Gish is the main character. And through Bluetooth, you get into the same level and you have to like grapple. The 2 blobs grapple. You have to throw each other on spikes. The first one that dies loses. All day, that's all we fucking did. Amazing, amazing concept. As far as I'm concerned, this is one of the most important games of this generation of phone games. Next game, I'm not entirely sure. Might be a bit more of a cult classic. Certainly everyone in my circle played this, but I'm not sure it was as widely popular just because of what it looks like. And the game is Gravity Defied. Basically, I would define Gravity Defied as a precursor to hill climb racing. I'm sure a lot of you remember this game as well. This is basically a precursor to that. You have a bike. You ride around, you have to get from the beginning of the level to the end. This is the only game on this whole list so far that I've actually beaten. And that's because it's the best fucking game on this list. It holds up so well. The graphics are minimalistic as fuck. It's just lines, it's green lines. The bike rider is just a stick figure. The bike is just a couple of sticks and wheels. It's so simple. It's one of those games where the difficulty lies within just learning to control your character efficiently, because you really need to study how gravity works in this game. How the bike responds to accelerating too fast or too slowly, or in short bursts. You have to really study the movement, and I feel like the skill ceiling is pretty high in this game, and it's really addictive to try and fucking beat these levels. There are 3 level packs: easy, medium, and hard. And there are 3 corresponding bike models or whatever, or like engine capacities. I'm not exactly sure what these numbers stand for, but you know, each next bike is more powerful, more quick. Every time you complete all of the levels in one category, for example, easy, you unlock the medium category of levels and the next power of the bike. And some levels in the medium pack will be impossible to complete with the less powerful bike. You have to go for the second one. Even though you can take the first one, some of them are just unbeatable. This game, as a child back in the day, I never managed to complete. It's extremely fucking difficult. Even at the medium difficulty level, some of the levels become just diabolically difficult. But I'm proud to announce, about a month ago, I've actually managed to beat the final level of the game, the hardest level, which I've never even seen back in the day. And as it turns out, after you beat all of the levels, you get a 4th secret bike with blue wheels, which is way more powerful than the 3rd one. Unfortunately, no new levels are unlocked after that, so basically what you can do with the blue bike is try to just compete with yourself to get faster times on levels you've already beaten. Like I said, the presentation is primitive and minimalistic. There's not even any music or sound effects, not at all in this game. But it doesn't really matter. Not even in spite of that, but probably because of that, the game holds up so fantastically, because there's no dated factor to it. This minimalist approach inadvertently made it timeless. I think if you find yourself in a situation where you have this phone, just download Gravity Defied. It's the only game you need to occupy you for several months, because really, some of the most difficult levels in this game took me months to beat. Some of the last levels in the hard difficulty, and it was time well spent. I tell you, it was extremely fun. One quick thing I want to mention is I'm a musician. If you like my videos and you like my channel, please consider checking out my music. I have several different projects with different sonic flavors, so choose one, check it out if you will. All of them are on all streaming platforms ever created. Yeah, if you want to support me, that's the best way and pretty much the only way you can do it. Thank you very much. Next game. Back in school, I only got this game on my phone within the last maybe year of owning the phone. It doesn't hold as much nostalgia as the rest of the games for me. I think probably not for you either, because I'm pretty sure this game is completely regional, as there is no language select and the default language is Russian. So I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have not played this game, but the game is called Ancient Empires 2 specifically. There are 3 parts, but the first and the third one are complete trash. The second one is the only one worth playing. Basically, this is a turn-based strategy game where you have a castle. There's an array of units you can purchase higher in the castle. You have your general that can conquer new castles, and village houses that gain you more resources to buy more units. And every single unit is unique. Some of them have special abilities. The archers can shoot at a distance without getting retaliation. And the combat is pretty simple. You come up to an enemy unit, you attack them, they attack you back. Once again, the biggest selling point for this is the multiplayer. You don't even need Bluetooth or anything to play this game with your friends. It has a hot seat multiplayer. You can play on the same phone because it's turn-based. You just pass your phone around. You can have up to 4 teams within one match competing against each other. So you can play with 3 of your friends on one phone. From my memory, that's the only game that allowed this kind of level of fun. So even though I got it pretty late, I got my good share of fun out of it. And paradoxically, even though, like most of the games of the era, it's pretty simple, you know, there's the strategy aspects, you know, there's only like maybe 8 units or so. But somehow they nailed the balance of the economy, how many units you can have tops, how fast it takes to kill enemy units and for your units to die. They really balanced this game so well that fighting doesn't feel random at all. It feels like a puzzle you need to solve to win. You feel like you're completely in control. Every single move counts, and your strategy and tactics is really what wins you the game, which I feel like is no small feat from the developers. I have no idea who developed this game. Macrospace. I have no idea. I've never heard about this developer ever since. Macrospace, like I said, the whole game is in Russian. I have no idea. Probably some Russian company. But yeah, I think this game's pretty good. Definitely my top 3 in terms of just gameplay and how much enjoyment I got of it. This is the only other game other than Gravity Defied that I actually completed the campaign, and I've unlocked all of the battle maps for multiplayer. I have to say also, there's a lot of variety within the battle maps. A lot of them introduce different scenarios where one side has a lot more resources and a lot more castles than the others, and they have to kind of go into this makeshift alliance and then betray each other. It's really, within the simplicity of the mechanics, an interesting complexity kind of arises unexpectedly unexpectedly to me, and I think it's wonderful. So I definitely recommend this game as well. One last game I want to mention, Bluetooth Biplanes. It's another one of those multiplayer games. This one is probably the most simple out of all of them. It doesn't have any single player campaign. It doesn't have any music. It's just 2 planes, and you can shoot. You have to shoot your opponent. That's all there is to it. It's extremely simple, but frantic and fun, and probably one of the most popular multiplayer games of the time as well. But yeah, good times, Bluetooth Biplanes, shout out for sure. And I think that about does it. These are all the games I've tried so far.